we've done over the course of time, we've quadrupled the size of our testing plan. We've cut the cost significantly over the past few months, and this effort to push to ensure insurers you're able to get your tests refunded means 150 million Americans will be able to get free tests.
Complicated though. Why not just make them free and give them out and have them available everywhere?
Should we just send one to every American?
Maybe.
Then what happens if every American has one test? How much does that cost, and then what happens after that?
All I know is that other countries seem to be making them available in greater quantities for less money.
Well, I think we share the same objective, which is to make them less expensive and more accessible, right? Every country's going to do that differently. And I was just noting that, again, our tests go through the FDA approval process. That's not the.
So in that video, we're having a bit of audio problems on our side. In that video, you see the press secretary talking about the progress of what the Biden administration is doing on COVID, and being asked what I think seems like a reasonable question about why the government isn't just sending out the tests if they're so important and they're a relatively low cost in comparison to other preventive techniques way to stop COVID from spreading. Why don't you just send them out free of charge to everyone? And Jen Psaki did not appear to think that it was a reasonable question, and sort of mockingly talked about, well, do you even know how much that would cost? And I don't know, Nina, like, I think that there's been a lot of unfair criticism of the Biden administration's COVID response from right-wingers who are openly advocating for people to get COVID. But that said, I thought it was weird of the press secretary to so mockingly put down an idea that, as we'll get into, some jurisdictions are actually already doing.
Yeah, sure. And I agree with you. And both things can be true at the same time. The fact that right wingers are going to right wing no matter what, even if the administration is doing some things right. But, Jen Psaki comes off like this quite often. She did the same thing with April Ryan when she was asking about voting rights, and also the vice president, that I thought was very arrogant in her response, especially to somebody like April Ryan. And all the reasons why tone in that way to a Black woman can be seen. So I totally agree with you. The way that she responded to that, very defensive and very arrogant. And I think in some ways, whether she knows it or not, she really is validating the feeling of the elites in Washington being very much out of touch. Your job as a press secretary is to really, certainly do the president's bidding, no doubt, but there is a way that you can do it depending on what the question is. I'm not saying be a rollover for anybody. I don't think that is the role of the press secretary either, but depending on the situation, you got to handle those situations appropriately. And in this case, asking that question is indeed a fair question. This country must do more for us nationally, and it must be more of a leader internationally when it comes to helping other countries that are not as wealthy and fortunate as we are.
Exactly. No, I think you're totally right. And as you said, two things can be true. Like, you could have fair questions, and you can also have, like Ducey's kid continually trying to score points for Fox News. Like, both of those things can happen. In this particular case, I don't think it's crazy to send them out to everyone. I'm not saying it's obligatory that they do that, but New Hampshire had a program to do that, of providing free rapid tests to people. They eventually ran out. They would need more funding, but it's also a demonstration of that it was a popular program that they did that. Austria, by the way, has started offering free in-home coronavirus self-testing as part of its testing offensive. They have anyone aged 15 or over can get test kits for free from pharmacies, up to 5 free tests per person per month. And that certainly would cost something. But if you want to take seriously the idea, that we're going to stop this thing, that is certainly one way to do it. And maybe you have to have a discussion about to how many people, under what circumstances, how many of the tests and all that. But I don't think it should be mocked as an idea. Like, I've experienced this, and I'm sure you travel too. You've experienced this. You want to be responsible around the time, especially when you travel, if you feel like you've been exposed to someone. But those rapid tests in particular can cost up to $200. So sometimes regular people are going to have to make a very difficult call about whether to be financially responsible or public healthily responsible.
That's right, John. I mean, you're there. And it is just another way, not saying that every idea is the way to go, but it is an idea. And as you have laid out, there are examples of it being done both in this country and also abroad. And it is something worth exploring in our collective effort, keyword collective effort, to try to tame COVID. So and no, everybody can't afford to get that test, and even people who can barely afford it, they probably could use that $200 for something else. So it's just another tool. I see this idea is just another tool in the arsenal by which we can use to try to stem the tide. That's all.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.